Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Worst Pedals Ever. I am going to be your host, Lucas, and today we're looking at one of the stepchildren of the Boss pedal line, the Boss Hyper Metal. And the reason I say that is because the Hyper Metal came out to replace the legendary HM-2. I don't know why Boss thought they could improve on the HM-2, but they thought they could with the Hyper Metal. And this one came out in 1993. Coincidentally enough, this one was actually made in March 1993, which is pretty tight. I was like 5 when this thing was made. It was made to replace the HM-2, like I said, but it never really got out of the shadow of the Metal Zone, if you can believe that, because the Metal Zone is actually still around, it's still kicking. It's kind of become a meme as of late, but you can modify them, and they actually sound better if you modify them. But the poor HM-3 was kind of the stepchild of that little, distortion box era, because people kind of forgot about it because the HM-2 was legendary. Everyone wanted the HM-2, and the HM-3 kind of got lost in the shadows from that because everyone was gravitating towards the Metal Zone, which is, talking about this today is kind of odd because, I mean, back in the day, this is kind of like what you had if you wanted to kind of, you wanted to get that big, fizzy sound. It has the same controls as the HM-2 pretty much, and it is the same color. But as we're gonna see, it doesn't exactly sound the same. It's just like any of the Boss pedal. You got your battery door down here. Mine is a higher metal because for some reason the P and the E and a little bit of the M got rubbed off. I got this off of eBay. It came from a pawn shop. It's actually in pretty decent shape for being as old as it is. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's plug this thing up and see what it sounds like. Got everything all plugged up. Let's see what the clean sound sounds like. That is gonna be our clean sound. So let's kick on the Hyper Metal. I have everything maxed out, being that that's kind of how things were on the HM-2, being that this came right after the HM-2. So let's kick it on and see what it sounds like. Okay, so let's do something kind of a little unconventional. Let's actually turn the knobs a little bit and try to dial it in. See what we can do. So the level, I'm gonna put the level that around right there. I mean, the controls in here are kind of weird. They don't really give you much to go on. It's kind of like boost and cut. It's like, here you go, this is what you have, now deal with it. God. This actually doesn't sound too bad if you dial it in like this. It still kind of has a little bit of that little, that shushy sound I like to call it, going on up in the high end. But it doesn't really sound all that bad. Let's crank, let's put a little bit more level and let's put a little bit more distortion. That actually sounds worse. Some single coil sounds. The next single. And back to the bridge. And let's go back to cranking everything. Seems that like when you get about right here, there's a nice little scoop in it, which is kind of manageable, but the second you push it hard, it kind of becomes unstable. Alright, let's stick it in the effects loop just for fun and see what it sounds like. Alright, it is in the effects loop. Let's see if the hyper metal can get very hyper. Let's kind of dial it in like we did earlier just to see if that makes a difference. Not really. And one more time, we're gonna just crank everything and see how that sounds. Well, that is going to wrap it up for the playing portion of the Hyper Metal HM-3. Now let's wrap things up and get some final thoughts on the pedal. Now that we have heard the infamous Hyper Metal, what do we have to say about it? Me personally, this thing sort of sounds like a bad HM2 clone is kind of what it sounds like. It doesn't really have that nice, good, full, girthy sound that an HM2 has. It just kind of sounds like very like blah, which is, I don't know, it's a very interesting pedal. Boss shouldn't have discontinued the HM2, but I believe what they should have did was they should have released an HM2 like special edition, kind of like they do the Wazacrafts now. I wish they would do an HM2 Wazacraft. Holy crap, that pedal would do so well. I think the hyper metal, I don't think it ever should exist, to tell you the truth, because it doesn't really have a place. Kind of like a worse version of the HM2, and it like lost out to the metal zone, which is, I guess the metal zone at that time was doing its own separate thing, and it kind of had its own separate sounds, and this was just kind of like a worse sounding HM2, so I guess people didn't gravitate toward it. Eventually it got discontinued, and it's kind of really the forgotten boss pedal because no one really brings this up when you're talking about classic boss pedals. Sounds pretty decent, as you heard when I tried to actually dial it in and just didn't have it all cranked up. You can get some pretty decent sounds out of it, but there's plenty of other distortion pedals that do a way better job of getting a decent distortion sound, and there are plenty of other HM2 clones that sound better than the thing that was supposed to replace it. But enough about my opinions and thoughts. What about your feelings? What do you think about the hyper metal? Let me know in the comments down below, and as for me, I'm gonna have to be out. Peace.